Hello and welcome to the China Manufacturing Decoded show from Sofeast. This is Renaud here. I'll be your host today, and this is episode 188 already. On this podcast, we haven't really covered the topic of setting up a manufacturing facility, managing all the let's say the administrative and accounting and legal sides when setting up and managing a manufacturing facility in China. So today with me is Angel Ho, who is a director at Hongda Business Services, a professional services firm located in Shenzhen. And we worked with Hongda in the past to set up some subsidiaries. So I've been in contact with Hongda and her team for quite a few years. Thanks a lot for coming on the show, Angel. Would you like
Hi.
to introduce yourself and maybe tell us a bit about Hongda?
Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity to let everyone know who we are. Yeah, we are Honda Business Service. We can provide foreign enterprises or foreigner who want to investment in China. We start our business since 2007. So and in this long-term working experience, we provide from this project landing in China until company set up in China and accounting service, payroll service, and the company maintenance service in whole of China. And we since 2018, we also assist China enterprises and Chinese investor abroad. We have office in Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Hainan, Shanghai, and Beijing. Yep.
Great.
That's
All
all.
right. Yeah, thanks, Angela. So the first topic that is often discussed these days is what is the general business environment after about 3 years of the country closing down and then now reopening, and there's a lot of talk about the economy not going great and foreign companies sort of trying to get out of China and so on and so forth. What's your take on this? What do you see on the ground? Because you have a number of clients who are foreign companies in China, right? And
Right.
and you also work, when a lot of foreign companies come to China, they work with companies like yours, right? So you see firsthand what the situation is, and maybe you can contrast it with, let's say, maybe 2018, 2019, right? What have you seen on your side?
Mm, Actually, since pandemic happening, the people was change their working style. Actually, the people can work at home, not even in the commercial building.
Right.
So you can see the foreign investor that not really need to set up. They not need to physically in China. They can do in the China business. So we found that there's a lot of inquiry from overseas. They just need a China company and they need a China company bank account to settle the payment to local supplier. Then they can start their business in their home country. They not need to physically in China. About their stuff, they can hire one of them or just outsourcing a lot of service in local, such as they can outsourcing their quality control to the QC company. They also outsource accounting service to us. They also outsource, if they want to hire one or two staff, they also outsource payroll service to us. So they not need to really physically in China. But they still need the China business. It means because they still need to purchase from local China. They would love to sell in their home country. So they need this entity, but they're not really physically in China, right?
Right. Also, one thing I noticed is that a lot of foreigners were living in China and managing the operations. And then with COVID, they say, well, you know what, I'm going to stay outside of China because I don't want to be sort of prisoner, I want to be free. I want to go to
Mm,
this or that country,
mm,
whatever. And then they noticed, oh, well, actually, the team there in China is going all right. So maybe I don't need to come back and be there all the time, right? So what you're
mm,
saying is that some people make the same calculation even for setting up a company. They don't necessarily want to be and live in China, but they want still for local support, like a legal, legit business, but
yes.
they find it more convenient, maybe cheaper actually, and more flexible definitely to subcontract everything they can, right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I thought actually I was discussing with my client. Really, they said that they love their lifestyle in their home country. They feel comfortable, but
Mm,
China still biggest manufacturing. They have the manufacturing industrial in whole of the world, so they still need to buy or purchase from China. So
mm,
business is still in China, but their life in their home
right,
country. Mm.
right. And these tend to be small and medium-sized businesses, right? I guess for larger businesses, the same traditional model is still the same, right?
It really depends on what kind of their business model.
Mm,
Before that, we always found that a lot of foreign investment, they try to OEM the
mhm,
products from China. But right
mhm,
now, we found that more and more investment is target China markets. China is
mm,
for 1.4 billion population
right,
in China. So
right.
even though
Mm,
they just sell part of like south of China, they already can sell lots. So it really
right,
depends
right.
on they want to sell in China or they just purchase from China and exporting to overseas. But right now we found that more and more is about importing in China.
Mm, yes, yes.
Mm,
Well, which makes sense, right? In the long term,
mm, yes.
as the middle class gets wider and wider, and there's a lot of people with a lot of money, a lot of disposable income, and they still want to buy some foreign products, right? So, of course, that makes
Mm,
sense. So, I mean, the economy is, let's say, less vibrant than, especially 2015, 2016, 2017. I remember like around Shenzhen and Guangzhou, it was very, very dynamic. These days, it's a bit less dynamic, and a lot of foreign companies are not as positive about investing in China versus
mm,
that time, right? How has the Chinese government
mm,
responded to this situation? I think we talked just before the call, and you mentioned that they've been introducing some new policies.
mm.
Would you like to talk about this?
Sure. Actually, since the pandemic finished, the government always encourage foreign investor in China. They are doing a lot of
Hmm.
efforts in this parts, including they try to promote China, what's the China investment policy in
Hmm.
overseas. We already know the government department or officer, they become a group to Hong Kong, to Singapore, to even though to Europe country to introduce how China investment environment, how China supply chain, how China infrastructure. So to
Hmm.
show off the world how China looks like right now. Uh, but the activities is not only for this, since there's a two policy continually issuing about encouraging foreign investment in China. One is issuing on August. Is about how China try to encourage foreign enterprises try to invest in China. There's 24 items how China government support them.
Okay.
And after this issue, continually next 2 months, there's another policies about the manufacturing
Hmm.
industrial. Before that, there's a two area still restriction for foreign investment. One is for medical traditional medicine produced in China. Another is for the public printing, about the book printing, not allow foreign investment. But since October, the policy issuing is about the manufacturing industrial is totally opening to foreign investment. It means even though these two areas already public opening to the foreign investor who want to interest in investment these two areas. So it's a fully opening for foreign investment. So it's a
there's new sectors.
Quite strong. It's quite strong policy. Yes. So you can see how the government efforts and also different province government department also try to contact with us to see if we have a foreign client who want to investment to the manufacturing in local. They willing to give the tax refund policy or the government grants for supporting their lending. So a lot of policy could be discussed. Yeah.
Right, I see.
From my side, and I'm in China, I feel this all positive signal from China government.
All positive, I see. So they are making efforts. They really want to get back to the good times when a lot of foreign companies were coming and investing in China. That makes sense. Yeah. And I was also wondering, so in places, so you have offices in, let's say all the tier one or nearly all the tier one cities in China, right? There used to be a lot of foreigners looking for a job, right? It was not that difficult to hire a foreigner. Maybe not, of course, people with 20 years of operational experience and so on have never been particularly cheap or easy to find, right? But it was easy to find someone with maybe a few years of experience, someone young, trying to cut his teeth and learn and so on. And that was also a key factor in making it easy for foreign companies. They could hire a few foreigners who could follow up on what was going on and so on. Is it still easy these days? Because my general feeling is that it get much harder since COVID.
No, actually, it's possible to hire a foreign employee in China. You just need, but for the foreign employee, you need to, in China, they have A, B, C, three category. Usually A and B is, work visa. A and B is easier to get a work permit and to get a resident visa. For category C, it's a little bit hard because you don't have a working experience. But if this employee is very important to the company, we can write a report and then can be hiring this staff in local China. And compare with because we also assist Chinese investors to other country. Compare with Thailand, I know this quota, you need to hire 4 local staff, then you only can hire 1 foreign staff. But in China, totally without this quota limitation.
Well, there's no such quota, but if you have if you hire 10 foreigners for 3 local Chinese people, the local public security bureau might start to ask a lot of questions, right? Or the labor office, right? But they will.
It really, but it really based on what kind of business you're doing. Why you need 10 foreign staff instead of you only need to have 2 local staff. Actually, the large or the volume, we assist the client to apply for foreign staff. The maximum is 40 foreigner or for their company.
Right. Yeah. Also depends on the capital of the company, all kinds of things like that, right? And just for the listeners who are not really sure what you were talking about ABC, basically. So what Andrew was saying is that, of course, if you need to work in China, you need to have a work visa. And then there's a national system now. It's been in place for what, maybe 5 years. Remember when it came out? And then they ask you a number of questions like how many years of experience have you worked in some big companies? Do you have, master's degree, PhD? What's your educational level? And things like that. What's your level in Chinese and all kinds of things like that. And then you get a certain number of points. Okay, and of course you need to back everything up. You need to give evidence. Then you get a certain number of points, and then based on the points, you're either in A category, which is really the kind of profile that they want to attract, so they make it easier, or B or C, which they're not very keen on, so maybe you don't get a very long work visa, right? But it's still possible. But you need to renew maybe even every 6 months or something like that. I think it was. So that's the system. But I understand the system, the way to hire foreigners and get them a work visa hasn't changed since, let's say, 2019, right? So that's what you are saying, yeah.
For this kind of foreigner, if they really want to stay in China, usually we will love to suggest them to set up their own company, be entrepreneur, and then hire themselves to get a work permit to stay in China. That's what we provide a solution way in the pandemic period. At that time, before that, a lot of foreigners just holding a business visa to stay in China.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. I'm sure some people would do that. Yes. Now, let's go into another question I had. So let's say a foreign company from, let's say maybe from Australia or from Europe or from North America, wants to start actually their own manufacturing facility in China. Maybe it's their own product and they want to manufacture it there, or maybe whatever, but they want to set up their own manufacturing company. So how does it work in China? Like, what's the process? What are the main steps? How because you've worked with some companies, right? Helping them set that up. Can you describe a little bit how it works?
Usually in investigation, it will be the first step, right? So China is huge. You really need to visit in China to see what's the best location for your industrial. It's not only for manufacturing, but also it's about the you have the components or where you purchase. Yes. Right. Could be in south of China, could be in north of China. So the investigation will be the first step. And then you can, we would love to suggest you, if a huge investment, we would love to suggest you to discuss with the local government to try to get more government supporting. Could be from the land, could be from the tax policy. So it is a good way to always know each other. It's not only for your company, but also you need to understand how local system working. For the compliance way, it's quite simple actually. So just provide a head office business license, notarization from your home country, and then bring in China. So rent the manufacturing place, notary of your head office license, sign some company articles. So we will prepare all the application form for you, just sign and stamp and send to China, and the company setup will be finished within 5 working days. After this license, we will start for bank account opening. Usually this will be finished within 2 weeks. In the meantime, we will start to application for environment protect license. Just write down how your manufacturing process, how you're dealing with the components or with the water, and we will see how you environment protects the process. After this issuing, your manufacturing can be opening. So environment protect license will be take 1 month. So
Right.
totally maximum would be 3 months. Your manufacturer could be fully
So
open.
that's right. Let's say in a brownfield sort of setup where you come in, you pick an existing building, so you don't need to worry about getting the land and doing all kind, the
Mm,
construction and so on.
mm,
Big companies like to do that, but a lot of small and medium-sized companies try to avoid that, to try to find a
mm,
building already in an industrial
mm,
area, right? So they don't have to manage everything. So in that case, yeah, the company setup itself is not
mm,
is doesn't necessarily take a long time. Yeah.
no.
Um, what
Mm,
um, but then of course there are some other topics, right? Such as planning for the layout and for the processes and hiring people and
mm,
starting to
mm,
get them to do some of the work. So purchasing some materials, components, getting some of
mm,
the equipment to do the
mm,
production, and um, starting to maybe use an ERP and manage the stock and all these kind of
mm.
things. There's a lot of complexity, right? in
Yeah, it's
in
very
managing
detailed.
manufacturing
Mm,
operations.
mm,
Many ways to make a big mistake and lose a lot of money. So
mm,
yes. So yeah, you mentioned government support.
mm,
And from what I remember, if you want to set up, let's say in Shenzhen or
mm,
in Hangzhou, these
mm,
big cities that already have a
mm,
lot of manufacturing,
mm,
you are probably not going to get the same level of support as if you are ready to go more inland in in
mm,
um, in provinces like Hunan or Jiangxi, or
mm,
right.
mm,
Um, because the local governments there are, let's say, more hungry for getting in some manufacturing business. Is that
mm.
still the case? That was the case years ago, but I'm not really sure now.
Still the case, but
Mm,
it really depends on the right location. Again, because you set up a manufacturer, it's not only want to get the supporting from the government, but also you want to get the good profits, want the whole process going on smoothly. So
yes.
it really depends on you, where's your partner, what's your supply chain. Um, as you said, Shenzhen is quite popular, and because of this, a lot of the office rents and the staff salary are very high. But nearby Shenzhen, there's the Dongguan, Guangzhou, Foshan, a lot of other city,
Mm,
they with the lowest office rents, manufacturer rents, and the lowest staff salary. And right now, Guangdong province, Hong Kong, and Zhuhai, we call this a Great Bay,
the
involve
Greater Bay Area, right? Yeah.
yes, a Great Bay area.
Mm,
So it's
right.
become a
Yeah.
union area. Mm,
Yeah. Looking at that area, and that's. I mean, if you want to make electronic products, for example,
mm,
especially consumer electronic product, that's probably the place where most of the component suppliers will be. So that's a good area. But if you
mm,
make I don't know, you want to do cut and sew
mm,
textile or something like that,
mm,
where
mm,
the labor
mm,
cost will be a big part of the final product cost.
mm,
Well, maybe you should be somewhere else, especially if it's woven
mm,
garment. Maybe you should be, around Shaoxing, sort of more in the middle of China, right? So it really depends.
mm,
Totally agree. It really depends
mm,
on where your supply chain is going to be,
mm,
and
mm,
the economics of the project. You also
mm,
mentioned, yeah, even within the area around
mm,
Shenzhen, Guangzhou,
mm, mm,
there's different cities with different cost profiles. Obviously, Shenzhen, yes, is more expensive, let's say.
mm,
The rent is not that expensive. But of course, when you add everything up with the labor cost and all
mm,
these kind of things, you might get a much better deal, let's say in Huizhou, for example, maybe a couple of hours away to the east, right? But also what I noticed is that people often want to have, maybe a lot of space and, room for growth and so on. And sometimes you just can't get that easily in Shenzhen. Or maybe it's in an area that you don't really like too much, right? But you go to a place like some places in Huizhou or some places in Zhongshan and Foshan, and you have new areas, and it's still kind of green around, and you can see that, and you get again a much better deal on the rent, and you can get support for some other things, right? So yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense to look around a bit.
Right.
Look around. So we started to touch on that, but what kind of mistakes do companies make when they want to start a manufacturing activity in China, from what you've seen? And I'll also add sort of some mistakes that I saw, but are there a few kind of mistakes that are that you've seen maybe a few times, or that are really always how to say, appealing? Maybe the wrong decisions maybe always can tend to be appealing to decision makers for the wrong reasons.
Actually, we are not involved operating manufacturing a lot with the client. I believe you do, but but we involve a lot when they are starting the manufacturing setup. So I believe the common mistake is the first one is about the capital. A lot of Western people, they always want to register company with the lowest capital as they can. They even though ask me whether I can set up this manufacturing with the capital $1, because in China it's a foreign currency control country. If you just register $1, it means you only can invest $1 to your manufacturing. It is impossible. So you need to make estimates what's your first year turnover, or the first year investments, or even though you need to estimate or make the funds plan for at least 2 or 3 years. Because even though your registered capital could be $1 million, $2 million, but it not request your investment immediately. You could invest when we write on the memorandum of the articles, we will write down this capital could be investment to company account within 20 years. You have enough time to invest your funds, but at least you will not feel very tight of your funds at the beginning. It really depends on you, what you spend as the first 2 years, and then you get some turnover, and then you now need to invest from your head office to China. So there's the capital things as the first common mistake why talk to the client at the beginning.
Right, I totally agree. I mean, you don't have to free up the capital. You don't need to put it up there right away, right?
Yes.
There's a portion of it that you can put later. And if you really do your plan for, let's say tax optimization while being fully legal, it's much better to have a high capital. You put money there, you do things with it, you don't pay tax on it. Right? Now you should use your capital obviously just for, let's say, investment and startup operations and things like that. You have to remain legal, obviously. But I'm sure people have paid tax because they had to generate sales to finance certain things that actually should have been financed with capital, right? So that's a good point.
Another is about the location. Usually they think about where they were exporting the products, where they should have the office there. But it is wrong.
Mm.
Actually, you can set up your company in Shenzhen, but you can exporting your product from Shanghai ports. So in whole of China ports, you can exporting.
Yeah.
So that's the
Yeah, I think
location.
yeah, just as we discussed before, it's very, very important to be close to the supply chain. Very important. If you have some key suppliers, especially suppliers of custom components, try to be close to them because then you can visit them if you're developing a new product, if you're whatever you're buying batches of components from them. You want to be able to get them also to rework if necessary very fast. And maybe they will send some people to your place. Maybe you send the shipment back to them, right? It's much easier to communicate and do a lot of things if you're close to them, obviously. Yeah. And very often,
Yes.
depending on the industry you're in, you will find these types of, like you can set up a whole supply chain in a certain area, right? Very often that's what you would find. Yeah.
Right, right.
Any
Yeah.
other things that come to your mind, or I start with my list?
I think not too much mistake because right now it's very easier to get all the information from the website.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of free education out there. So a few ideas I had in mind, kind of mistakes to avoid. Well, hiring the staff, people you hire at the beginning is very important. And maybe you hire a production manager, and then you hire maybe someone like for quality and someone to manage, the warehouse and so on. And these people will become naturally your leadership team, and they will shape the culture of the company. So be very, very careful, right? Also, I've seen some companies where you have sort of different competing clans within the factory. So I remember actually a German company, a German factory making some kinds of home appliances. I don't want to be precise here. And they had, I don't know, maybe 20 German people on site, or 15 or 20 German people. And then, mostly in management and middle management. And then they had also a bunch of people from Hong Kong. Again, maybe, one or two dozens. And then they had some local mainland Chinese people. And some of them in management, and some of them, all the way, obviously all the operators were from mainland China. But you had these three groups, and they were kind of shooting at each other. Sort of three different mafias in the same organization. That's really bad. You get to avoid that. You really have to avoid what might be easy. Oh yeah, I have, I don't know, whatever, these Hong Kong people, these Singapore people, or whatever, and then oh yeah, let's let him hire some others, from the same city, and they sort of define themselves like us versus them, and this is really bad. This is really a big problem. Yeah, wrong area, even wrong building. Sometimes in an area that can flood and so on. So that's a big issue. Laying out the processes. So don't start small and then sort of add the equipment as it comes in an organic manner without thinking of the flow of materials and so on. This is a problem. This will really be a problem for labor productivity and so on and so forth. The staff comes in. Now it depends at what quality level you can tolerate. But if you hire people simply because they have a bit of experience in something a bit similar, and you just hire them and say, okay, guys, just go ahead and work. And no. You will leave a lot of money on the table probably, except if it's really a small operation. But you gotta have, um, process engineers, manufacturing engineers think again of the processes and the layout and so on, and how people should work. You can't have people sort of sit, squatting on the floor and putting things together. I mean, you got to think of ergonomics and and ease of operation and so on, right? And also you need to do some training. You need to see um, you need to start simple, maybe slower, and then work out the kinks in the processes and so on, right? And that's the same idea actually as training is don't try to plan for a big bang kind of production launch. You need to go little by little. You need to start, with just one line and getting things, flowing slowly, and then over time ramp up the volumes and then duplicate and grow and get the people to find the right balance, in the teams and get them to find the issues and how to say, get used to working together, right? And on the system in the new factory, because there's always new things and you always need to people to adjust the system, right? So that's
Right.
sort of some mistakes that I have seen. All right. Well, we're kind of already out of time, so that's been great. Maybe there are some people listening who are thinking of starting to manage their own manufacturing facility in China. So
Mm.
hopefully this will open their eyes on, okay, what is the process? Who can help me? What are the next steps? And what are the kind of things that I need to keep in mind, right? It's probably more questions, things to think of rather than answers, because there's so many different situations, as you mentioned, whether you're going to manufacture in China, whether you're going to mostly sell in China, maybe make in China for selling in China. What industry, what kind of products, what quality level, etc., etc., etc. What cost structure you need to have, and so on and so forth. So that was great. Thanks a lot, Angel. If people want to reach out to you, how do they
Mm.
find you or your company? What is the best way?
They can send me email, and
Uh-huh.
they also can review our company website. They can find more other useful information from our website.
So it's
Mm.
hongdaservice.com, right? Hongda,
Yes,
Hongda, and then
mm,
service.com. Yeah,
right.
we'll leave a link to that in the show notes. So if people want to reach out, they will find it easily.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again, Angel, and thanks to the listeners. And tune in next week as we'll be back as usual with a new show.
Thanks again for listening to this podcast brought to you by the Sofeast Group. We're on a mission to provide you with everything you need to manufacture effectively in Asia, including inspections, auditing, new product development support, contract manufacturing, 3PL warehousing and fulfillment, and much more across Asia's key manufacturing areas. Visit us at sofeast.com, that's SOFEAST.com, to learn more and get help. If you've enjoyed the podcast today, please do rate, review and share, because it will really help others discover us too.